Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode number 375, Craig Adua! I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Good. I'm glad you could say that because I still can't say that.
I knew what that battle cry was before Highlanders because of, the war games and Jamie yells that every chance he gets.
Right. Yeah.
Forgotten that.
Yeah. Did you guys have a good week? How are you guys? Welcome back, Glenn.
Thank you. I'm a bit exhausted now, even though we got back Friday and we've just used the last 2 days to recover. But yeah, it was fun.
How was Florida?
It's there. I was considering how my
East
month was
Coast?
going last week. Well, now I'm gonna give everybody a geography lesson because I was not ever on the west coast or the East Coast.
We knew you weren't on the
although
West Coast.
I was at an East Coast state. I give you that. But I was about as far from
that as victory.
I was about as far from the East Coast as you could get, and being still in Florida because we were in Pensacola, which is almost by Texas, which my magnets are almost by Texas, by the way.
I knew it.
And I cut out the geography lesson for the week before. Well, sometimes I like to save Sean from himself because I wanted to come back and say I went to Navarre, which is near Pensacola. And all of our listeners that have gone, oh yeah, that's Gulf Coast. That's that's almost near Texas. That's Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. And I wanted to save him from himself because he was so adamant saying that I was going to the West Coast,
East Coast.
Or East Coast. I keep saying West. East Coast, which I did go to an East Coast state, but I was not near the East Coast. And I thought I'll save Sean from himself so that people don't think he's an idiot thinking I was on the East Coast. Because I wasn't. So I cut it from the show only to find out you guys talked about it last week anyway. And I thought, all right.
That's what we get for continuing a gag.
You guys suspected I cut it anyway.
Yeah.
That's what we get for not listening to the show.
Yeah. So anyway, I was not on the East Coast, but I was in Florida. And I have never been to the Gulf Coast in Texas, but I've always heard how dingy it looks and the beaches aren't as nice and whatnot. And I'm sure there's some fine areas in Texas that are gorgeous. But people, that is not true for Florida's Gulf Coast. It is gorgeous. The ocean is green up to a point, and then it just drops off into blue where it's deep, and the sands are white, which are just gorgeously white sands. And we actually left on Saturday of last week, drove down to Birmingham, Alabama, which is about 10-hour drive. And so that was the longest drive of our trip. And we stayed with some friends there. And then the next day on Sunday, and we had lunch. We got on the road and went to Florida. We got to Florida late on Sunday. So Monday we drove to the beach, and it was kind of cold and rainy. So we just kind of got out and looked at the beach, and they have these really nice, there's Navarre Beach, which is the very kind of touristy, there's beach houses down there, and that's commercial property over there. And then as you drive down the beach even further, they have Coastal Reserve, which is federal land, and that's Gulf Breeze. And we drove down there the first day, and it's just, there's hardly any people down there, but you can go up to the beach and stuff. So we went and looked at that. We went and ate at, we actually went down to the pier at Navarre Beach, walked the pier, went to this great restaurant called Windjammers. Terrific seafood. It was so good. Next day we got up and took the kids to the beach. So they actually got some beach time. We actually went to the public beach part at Navarre. Got way burnt on my legs because we used the spray suntan lotion, which I prefer, but we didn't get good coverage because there was a bit of a breeze. And then that night we drove over to Destin, which is another kind of touristy town, and we did a dolphin cruise. Then we went to, let's say it right, Fuddbuckers, which is, I think they have Fuddpuckers, not Fuddruckers, Fuddpuckers, which is, they have a couple of these in Florida. This particular one we went to has live alligators, and you can feed the live alligators, and you can actually order alligator on their menu, which we talked about doing, but we didn't end up doing. They got really good burgers.
Alligator's really pretty good.
Is it?
I've had alligator tail.
Yeah, that's what this was on the menu too. So went home next day. We got up and went to Pensacola and had lunch at this place called Jocko's. And we drove back to Navarre, and the kids wanted to go to the beach again. And it was a little cooler that day, so Holly and I didn't get in the water, but the kids got in. We went and bought them a boogie board because everybody down there had boogie boards the day we were down there. So they played on that. And that time we didn't go to the public part. We went back over to the Gulf Breeze Federal Reserve. Then we went back to the house, had a barbecue, and played some board games. And then we got up Thursday, and we went ahead and got on the road because we had 14 and a half hours to get back. Not total because we split it up. So what we did is we decided we'd drive to Memphis and stay in Memphis. Well, we found a little town outside of Memphis in Marion, Arkansas, so that we were on the north side of Memphis. Stayed there overnight. We came home Friday night. And that was it. We've just been recovering the last few days.
Cool.
That's pretty much it.
Nice. Sounds like a good trip.
I did get a movie watch this week, too.
What'd you watch?
I watched Justice League. I felt like I needed to catch up since you had watched it last week.
What'd you think?
I liked it. I was pleasantly surprised. It feels like the DC universe that I'm familiar with now. It's brighter. It's more. There's more fun. There's more lightheartedness to it. It's not the dank, dark stories that Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman are. I'm glad that they didn't sweep a lot of that backstory aside, because that would have irked me if they had just kind of ignored a lot of that stuff that didn't work, or that I felt didn't work. I enjoyed it. I now sort of regret not seeing it in the theater, but then on the flip side, if the track record had been better, I would have seen it in the theater. So
yeah.
What'd you guys do this week?
I finished Jessica Jones season 2.
Oh, you finally finished? Oh, I guess I finished too. I haven't talked to you since I finished it. Yeah. Sorry. You finally finished it? Well, I guess
it's only been 3 weeks since it came out, so it's pretty good for me.
I think I finished it. I finished it before we went on vacation for sure, and I think it was even almost. I
finished
before
it
that.
Monday.
Yeah, but you'd mainlined most of it that first day because you were off.
He had seen more of it.
I had mainlined
than I. Yeah, he was up to episode 9, and I only had 4.
I didn't get much watched in that week in between, and then I had Monday off, so I was able to finish it off.
Yeah,
which it's finished strong. It kind of meandered in the middle a little bit, or near the end. It was good.
Well,
I recommend.
Solid second season.
We watched season 2 of Better Late Than Never. That reality show where William Shatner, Henry Winkler.
Oh, yeah.
And the other two guys, George Foreman and
Jeff
Dye. And there's one other guy.
Terry Bradshaw?
Terry Bradshaw, yeah. This time it was Europe. It was quite enjoyable.
That's a fun show.
Yeah, it really is. Sean, what'd you do?
I fought allergies and lost.
I've been fighting them too. Especially since Friday.
I have an appointment next week. I'm just going to pay all the monies and say, make me better. We had Katrina this weekend, so we did we didn't do a double feature. We did a movie Saturday and one Sunday, and they were both kid films.
Which ones?
We saw Peter Rabbit.
How was that?
It's okay. I'm not the target audience. I understand that, but it's no Paddington.
Well, what is?
Well, yeah, very few of them are. It's cute. I mean, the bunnies are cute, and there's way too much given away in the trailer. Yeah, it's just kind of there. And then, what do we see today? Oh, Sherlock Gnomes. So, Romeo and Juliet, if you haven't seen it, we caught that one at the Dollar Theater back when it came out. And Romeo and Juliet is actually a very cute, tongue-in-cheek adaptation of Romeo and Juliet with gnomes. And it's a delightful little comedic romance. And it's chock full of Elton John songs. And we didn't expect anything of it. And was like, wow, that was really kind of cool. That was great. That was a lot of fun. And Katrina really wanted to see it. Oh, okay, so we'll go. We got the movie pass. We'll just pay for one ticket. Oh, we overpaid. Let's take those two characters that you really liked from that movie and put them over here in a Sherlock Holmes mystery movie, which doesn't work. I mean, they're just there's nothing to do.
This is the third one, isn't it?
No,
second.
Wasn't there one before Romeo and Juliet?
Nope. I can't recommend it. Don't waste. Even Mel was like, I'm looking forward to an adult movie tomorrow because we think we're going to try and go see Death Wish. So on the complete other end of the spectrum. Yeah, that was about it.
All right, what do we got in the news?
Well, our only bit of news this week is Candy Jar Books has announced a new collection of stories featuring Alistair Lethbridge-Stewart. The short story collection. So this is spurred off of the competition to submit stories. So these are all people who submitted stories to Candy Jar. in their short story competition. So we've got Shadows.
This is some of the ones that didn't make it into Havoc Files 4, because a couple of those were winners.
Right, I think so. So, and with Havoc Files coming to an end and still celebrating the 50th anniversary year, this is a great way to do that.
Yes.
They have Shadows in the Glen by Richard Brewer, The Friendship Paradox by Thomas Firth, The Special Responsibility by Gary Tinnims, Soldier in Time by Martin Gregory, The Man with the Red Case by Matthew Ball, The Brigadier Rides Again by Ross Hastings, and Machina Exprivatit by Anthony Robertson, and Burning in Daylight by Paul Chase.
You're just going to leave that one in there, huh?
And in Machina Exprivat.
Some of us read Latin the same way we read sci-fi. It's too many X's and Q's in that word.
So all new writers for this short story collection.
Lots of fun there.
Pretty exciting.
Very exciting. Welcome to the fold.
Limited edition run, of course, of printed copies. So
order yours. Can they order theirs now? Or is it just coming? Has it been announced for pre-order yet?
I believe it has been announced for pre-order.
Well, you better hurry up and order yours now.
Yeah, because they'll run out quick. Cool. Anything else?
That's pretty much it.
All right. Any feedback this week, Keith?
No feedback.
No one wrote feedback. I should have wrote another one. Well, let's move on to our review.
What are we starting with?
What do you mean starting with?
What are we starting with? We're starting with the
only doing one
Highlanders.
thing.
Oh, well, that would be what we're starting with.
Well, we're going to go in doctor order, so let's do second doctor first. Yeah, I saw that.
History books don't always tell the whole story. Certainly there's no record of an episode that occurred when the Scots, led by Bonnie Prince Charlie, were defeated by the English in the Battle of Culloden in 1746. And the presence at that time of a blue police box on the Scottish moors seems to have escaped notice of most eyewitnesses. The Highlanders sets the record straight. And while the incidents described may not be of great interest to historians, for Jamie McCrimmon, they mark the beginning of a series of extraordinary adventures.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's the synopsis from the novelization.
This is about my fourth go-around with this. I mean, not fourth time, but I've listened to the audio reconstructions twice, and then I now read the novel, or the novelization. And then I've finally gotten around to watching the recon, which is rough when you're missing all 4 episodes. But I still contend that this is much better doing this by reading the novelization first and then watching the recons, because it certainly makes it a lot easier. And I think the recons go faster. Like I went through a rewatch or first watch on some of the First Doctor era when I was when I was reading Neil and Sue Perryman's Wife in Space series, and because I wanted to make sure I had seen everything, or at least was familiar enough with everything before. And I found I would hit those Hartnell ones, and some of them were much better than other ones, but it's really difficult when you're just hearing it, especially when some of them don't have the narration or they don't have the info text at the bottom of the screen. This way that we do them when we read it, it seems like I sit down and I think, oh, this is going to be a long trod, but they seem to go quicker than even the book paces out. And there's some things so that sometimes the show will go along so far, and these aren't long reads. They're usually 130, 180 pages. But
I think this one was only 120.
Yeah, so these go so much quicker when I watch the recons now, because I know where they're at in the story, and they seem to click along a little quicker. So that happened with the Crusade. That happened with Wheel and Space.
Yeah.
I just felt like things clicked along a little faster, having known the story well enough. So
I'll be honest. There's a part of my brain that goes homework, because I have to read the book and then I have to watch I struggle with these recons. I really do. It's like, do I really want to? Yeah, you got to do it. So I'll get into it and I'll start reading it. And I enjoy the story for what it is. And then I'll go and sit down and, okay, you're up, ready. And I'll dive into the recon. And I'll realize that you already know this. So you know what's, because you read the book. And it makes it so much more palatable, so much easier on the brain, because I'm not having to necessarily devote that same level, this sounds bad, I'm not devoting the same level of attention to it as if I was just watching it fresh.
A little easier to let your mind wander occasionally, which is going to happen when you're just staring at a picture, listening to something.
Yeah.
So you can then pick up where you left off, wherever your mind wandered to, once you see the next picture change, and you go, "Oh, yeah, I'm watching something. Yeah, I'm listening, but I know exactly where we are, and I'm not lost now."
Exactly, because I'm still listening, I'm still taking it in, but because the imagery is only so frequently, it's not that constant flicker,
right,
of what's going on. And this one, I think, benefits from being, what's his name, Jerry Davis?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Who wrote the episode.
He
co-wrote
it, and he didn't write much of it. The first guy that's credited wrote most of it. Jerry was script editor, I think, at the time, or was a assistant script editor or something. And he went in and polished it.
Well, he didn't change much because
he didn't change for the book. No,
he elaborated a little bit on some spots and restructured a little bit,
just a tiny little bit. Because I'll be honest, I got down kind of to the wire. I watched part 4 today because we were so busy earlier. I just didn't get to it, and I hadn't finished reading the book yet. I still had about 15, 20 pages to go.
I actually watched part 4 before I finished reading the book also.
Well, I was watching them, and then I thought, well, I'm just going to go ahead and, since I'm kind of doing that divided attention thing anyway, so I just pulled it up and was reading along with the episode as it was going. It's almost exact.
Mm-hmm. It's really, really close.
It's really close.
There's a point in episode 4 where
Elwyn Jones is the other co-writer of this.
The episode jumps back and forth between what Polly is doing and what the doctor's doing, where in the book it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference that I noticed. A couple other small extensions in the book, but really not much.
Yeah, not much at all. I mean, even down to some of the dialogue is... And the other thing is that the episode... This is one thing where I will give the episode, at least in the recon with the audio... a greater hand than the book was the doctor's accent when he launched into being the German doctor.
See, in my head, the accent was better.
Well, I kind of lost that thread. So I knew he was doing it in that initial scene, but I never came back to it in my head when I would read subsequent scenes. And so to hear it, and it was like, okay, he's still playing this character. Okay, I'm with you now.
Did you guys think he sounded more like Salamander than in German?
A little bit.
Okay, good. So not just me. Yeah, I wasn't too impressed by it, and I love Patrick Troughton, but his accent, his fake German accent, wasn't very good in my opinion.
Give him props for playing 4 different characters in this one.
let me correct what I said, because this isn't the one I'm thinking of. Elwyn Jones actually carried on no work in this script. He was commissioned to write the story. According to Wikipedia, the scripts were written by story editor Jerry Davis, which is probably why it's so familiar in the. It says, unlike other cases in which the story or / script editor substantively wrote or rewrote strips, however, Davis actually did get an on-screen credit for it. So in the past, the writer would just get a solo credit, even if it was reworked quite a bit, which was the case with Douglas Adams sometimes, or other writers that had come in and just reworked it. David Agnew. But he actually did get credit on there, so they're jointly credited. So
that's good to know.
This story, the latter half, while it clips along, struggles a little bit in the recons and the beginning too, for that matter, because there's so much action. It makes it a little harder to follow what's going on. The sword fight on the boat was... Yes, the sword fight, the initial scuffle. While we had some video clips, there wasn't a lot. That's where having the novel kind of fill in those gaps of what's happening in the action really
helps tremendously.
Really helps, yeah.
And I completely, of course, most of the characters in my head I had somewhat down. So then when I saw the reconstruction, I kind of thought, yeah, that's kind of what I imagined. Except for the daughter, I can't remember what's her name.
Christy.
That wasn't who I pictured. The voice was there, but boy, no, this is not who I pictured. I don't know what I thought I pictured of this girl, but she looked a lot older than what I had pictured in my head. I had a much younger looking girl, and this girl may have been, younger anyway, but I had a much younger looking girl, younger than Polly. This girl looked like she was at least the same age or maybe even older. And just I don't know. That just kind of set me back. I was like, whoa, this is not what I picked. Everybody else, obviously, though, I'm familiar enough with Jamie, Ben, Polly, and the Doctor. And then the secondary characters really kind of near what I visualized. Well, Perkins as well. I already had voices to go with my reading it because I had listened through the audio reconstruction before. But yeah, I was, for some strange reason, I was taken aback by the actress that played Christy. I was like, well, that's not what I pictured at all. So
she kind of reminded me of Katarina from what I've seen of Katarina.
Yeah.
At least in appearance.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah,
I just did. So, and that being said, I haven't seen much Katarina, just pictures. So
right.
I think the story is quite enjoyable.
She also voiced Skagra's ship in the webcast for Shada. Christy McLaren. So there you go.
I think the story moves along nicely. It doesn't really lag. There's lots of fun action, and it's one of those historicals that I thoroughly maybe I need to revise my statement of I don't tend to enjoy historicals because now I'm starting to more often.
And this is the last pure historical.
Yeah.
And they say until Black Orchid. Although, as we have highly discussed in the past, we don't really consider anything that's period to be considered historical. And in fact, Black Orchid is not based on historic events. So even with the quote-unquote until Black Orchid, this really is the last pure historical. So.
Yeah.
I was really struck with what made them decide to keep Jamie. Because I'll be honest, I expected way more Jamie. in a story.
He does. He's kind of a smaller role.
It's his premiere episode, and it's called The Highlanders, and he becomes a companion. I'd never seen it before, so I went, yeah, Jamie. No.
Yeah,
not much.
I think Fraser said once that it was that he got along really well with the cast. He got along really well with the production crew, with the producers at the time. Who would have been? Let's see, Jerry Davis, I guess, would have been the scriptwriter. Ennis Lloyd would have been producer at the time. So, yeah, I think he got on well with them. I think they also, although Ben's a young, good-looking guy, but I think maybe they also looked at him. I know he did talk about how he was reminded. He reminded, I think, Ennis Lloyd of another pop singer that was big at the time. That they looked very similar, and often Fraser said he would get mistaken for this other guy. And I think that was maybe something that they lent to. You know what? If we bring him on board, it kind of he looks like this other guy. Maybe that'll get us some young cred, some teen cred.
So he was a Chekhov.
He was a Chekhov, yeah.
Let's bring Chekhov onto the ship because he looks like the monkeys.
Yeah, it looks like a beetle.
Okay. That was the monkeys.
He looks like a German beetle. Or not German. Russian beetle.
Well, he doesn't really do anything companion-y until he stows away on their boat on their way back, which felt like they kind of wrote in because they decided they liked the actor and kept him on. That being said, I'm not complaining. I'm glad because I love Jamie in the Second Doctor. I'm kind of
surprised. Such humble beginnings to.
Oh yeah, considering how little Jamie and the Doctor actually interacted, and to see the friendship that developed so quickly and so fiercely throughout the next several episodes.
I love the fact that the Doctor uses him as the bait because he basically points to him as, oh, that's Bonnie Prince William in disguise. That's him. He's using Jamie, unbeknownst to Jamie, that he's using him and to be the decoy. So
I also really, really appreciated Polly and how, knock it off. Let's go rescue the guy.
Yeah, how she gets something to do.
Yeah.
She gets something to do.
And the fact that she helps bring Christy up into, giving her character a story
something
arc.
To do. Yeah.
And giving her character, by giving Polly something to do, it gives Christy a growth as a character throughout the run.
Well, it's still, the girls are still quite feminized in this for the 60s. I mean, that's understandable. They are also given a little bit of a more powerful position in that they are separated and gives them a chance to do things on their own, be a little more powerful women, be a little more, self-sufficient women as they should be, and it recognizes their worth a little more than sometimes when the companions all together and the female, companions kind of get sidelined or damselized.
I loved all
Or
this
go make
stuff.
coffee.
Yeah, or go make coffee, which is the Polly book.
I loved all the stuff with Algernon, how that was all handled.
Yeah.
Even because they could have tried to use their sexuality of some way, but they didn't. It was all very, okay, we're going to actually threaten you and use our brains. And then the fact that Algernon kind of starts to develop a crush on Polly because of it, I thought that was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's very subversive, too, because, the initial incident is, well, come on, let's create a distraction. Okay, we can outrun them. Oh, screw you, I'm going to leave. And she falls in a hole, and you just think, oh, okay, here's going to... But no, they rescue themselves.
Yeah.
And then they capture Algernon, and they leave him in the pit. And then they go and they, become orange sellers, and then they get captured, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. But no, they get out of it because of Algernon. And just through the whole thing, you're kind of waiting for that, when do they become the standard damsel in distress that they're going to have to be rescued?
And they never are.
And they never are.
And it's certainly down to the fact that Polly knows her history better than even Ben does. And so that's another interesting thing is that, well, Ben, you obviously you didn't study your history and Polly knew a lot more about the time than Ben did, which I thought was pretty cool.
That was the one thing that I felt was a little bit of a contrivance, was that it's been established that Ben was a sailor. And he's handling, admittedly, it's a flintlock pistol of some type, and he just casually tosses it onto a table, and it goes off.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
And he can hold his breath really well.
Depending on
that's
what,
great. I have no
depending
problem
on
with
what
that.
firearms though you were used to, most firearms of his time of the 1960s
You could have
were
done that with.
well, you would have pulled you wouldn't have had to have pulled back the hammer in order to cock it so that you could fire it.
Right.
It would have done it in one action. But with this one, I presume that he must have cocked it back, but then not thought about, oh, that was, priming the hammer. So when he threw it down, I kind of gave him a little pause, because if you're not used to that, the fact that you have to, prime it to pull it back and cock it so that it's ready to fall on the powder, I could give him some.
I give him the slack because it's Ben. Because well, Ben is steadfast, resolute in his inability to grasp the situation.
Often, yes.
Until it's far too late.
Yeah.
Even, we're obviously home. We're in England. Yay. No mention of the time frame.
Yeah.
Oh, they're historical reenactments. What?
You're in a time machine, Ben.
There was a bowling ball fell on you. And you didn't. No. Okay. I love Ben. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely adore Ben, but sometimes it's just like, really?
Well, and Ben certainly doesn't seem to really get to shine until they get on the boat, when he grabs the contracts and tears them up, which I thought was really cool. And then them hoisting him over the side of the boat, and then him explaining how he got out of the knots. I thought it was genius. He said, well, it's the old Houdini trick. You flex your muscles and make yourself really big, so that after they're done tying you, you relax, and then you're small again. And I thought, hey, that's very clever. That's a very clever kid right there. I'll give him that. So
that was I appreciated the fact that everybody was given something to do for being split up, and everybody.
Besides Jamie.
Well, besides Jamie, but
Eventually he's given something to do.
Of Team TARDIS,
Yes,
and in a way they're all given their own companion, because Polly gets Christy and Ben gets Jamie, and the Doctor kind of gets whoever he's hanging out with at any given time, because he interacts with all of the people. But,
yeah, and
if anything, the Doctor
such a joy to at least listen to Patrick Troughton go through being Dr. von Weir, which is in German is Doctor Who. I don't know if you knew that, but it's also part of that joke where he says, I'm Dr. Von Weir, and he goes, Doctor Who? And he goes, that's what I said. So it makes the joke right there. It leaves it right up. To disguising himself as the old lady, and even going into the whole voice, oh, that's a lady. I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean
know.
to joke.
He doesn't he gets that once he becomes the old lady, he kind of dips back in the background a little bit.
A little bit.
He's
Well,
sidelined a little
bit.
he's observing. Though,
But getting
I think.
to that point was so delightful of tricking Gray and Perkins.
Well, you suffer from headaches. Bam!
I did have a bit of a problem with that because it was a little too Three Stooges, which I could understand the where you're going for that violent humor there. Sometimes that works and can be appropriate. That felt a little non-doctor like for me.
He's still fresh off his regeneration.
Once he ties up Perkins and shoves him in the closet, I thought, all right. But then, with Perkins, in order to get that little comic moment, I thought if it had been if he'd just convinced him that his eyes were bad and he needed to, but giving him the headache by slamming his head, that was a little too much for me. But I can give it a pass, I suppose.
Well, I even wonder why, because he's talking to him in the Sherman accent. He's got the standard. He's got the guy. He's got him hook, line, and sinker. I need a free hand to be able to do it, and the guy's going to agree to it. And then he wraps it up and ties him up and throws him in the closet. And it's like, why? What were you hoping to accomplish? You had won. You had won the verbal argument with this guy. He was greedy. He was going to give in and say, yeah, okay, what do you need? But, okay.
Well, I think it's funny that Gray continues to fall for the Doctor as well. Because even after he ties him up, throws him in a closet, and then when he gets out, then he goes to him with the ring, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know who it is." I know, and then Gray's all, "Okay, yeah." even agreeing to pay the 10,000 guineas to the Doctor for the information. I thought, for Gray, who's supposed to be a solicitor, he's supposed to be smart. He's not very smart. In fact, he's not any smarter than the captain and Perkins.
Trask.
Yeah, Trask.
That being said, he was so unlikable that it was a joy.
Gray or Trask?
Both. It was a joy seeing them tricked and defeated as the Doctor defeated them.
I do like that they even though Perkins is working with the bad guy, he has almost a little bit of an adorable quality to him, and so I'm glad that at the end he kind of gets the hey, you need somebody to speak. Was it French? They were going to get, I know French.
I can speak French.
I'll go with you. Turns tails on.
Well, and the scene in the tavern where he confronts the orange wenches could have been played lecherous.
Yeah.
Could have been played creepy.
It's a bit smarmy, but
it's
not
smarmy, but it's not lecherous. And then when he insists that he, join them, what are we going to do? Let's play whist. You are the worst bad guy ever. Your heart is not in it, my friend. You just can't. What do you want to do? You want to play cards? Okay.
I imagine he doesn't get much social interaction besides Gray.
Hanging out with Gray, I wouldn't think so. But I had to look up corked.
Oh, you didn't know that
the
meant
wine has
getting
been corked.
Yeah, it gets pieces of the cork in the bottle.
That's what I thought.
Is that what you
it meant.
thought? Okay.
My first thought was that it had cork in the bottle because they mention in the book that he's looking. And then I thought, well, maybe he meant that it had been recorked and that it wasn't a fresh bottle, that he thought that Perkins had been nipping some off top. So I went and looked it up. It doesn't mean that it's got cork floating in it. It means that it has picked up the acidic taste of cork.
Oh, okay.
Apparently there's an actual chemical that is in a cork that can leach into the wine. I didn't know that.
I always thought cork was little fillings that got into the...
That's why he tastes it first and then spits it out. I was like, And I had to look up ducking. Because one of the chapter titles was a ducking for Ben.
Oh, when they
and they went and plunged him over the edge, and I went, well, surely they meant dunking, right? This is just a typo. So I went and looked it up.
It's called ducking, yeah.
Well, it is dunking, but it's called ducking. Like, okay. Normally when I type ducking, I'm trying to do something completely different.
Ducking is dropping them in for a while to the point where they think they're going to drown and then pulling them up again.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why it's ducking.
Yeah. Yeah, normally
I didn't bother looking that up.
Normally when I type ducking, it's a mistake. But stupid autocorrect. But I had to look that one up too. But, so I learned things from this historical.
It's good to know.
There were a lot of words that I did the sci-fi thing of. Yep, that's That Scottish word.
A lot of the Scotch.
But it wasn't too heavy.
It wasn't. It really wasn't.
It could have been a lot worse for being a book called
Especially
The Highlanders.
Especially for the accents, it could have been, a lot worse.
That was one thing that was a little different, is that I think the book was a little more accurate.
With the accents.
With the accents and things than even what the TV show. There was a lot more you can and and that kind of stuff in it. Which made me wonder, because I have to tread carefully here, because I certainly mean no disrespect to any of our British friends. When, typically, we do a film here about something in America's past, up until recently, it's been fairly whitewashed. It's been fairly sanitized as far as history goes. And so dealing with a British TV show in the 60s doing a story on the Scotch Revolution, I kind of thought, I wonder how accurate, this, or how sanitized. Now, obviously, they tell you right at the beginning, history's not going to portray it this way. So they've got the out. But I was very much struck by this feels very respectful to the Scottish cause. Even so, going so far as to, you pick the standard up, you don't throw it on the floor, you treat it with respect. I mean, there were a lot of those kinds of things.
They put the Highlanders as the heroes.
Yeah.
As opposed to the villains, which you would almost expect the opposite from a British perspective.
I wonder if Jerry Davis, or maybe if there's Scottish descent there, and this was kind of a, we're going to tell the story of William Wallace.
Well, I don't know that much about it either. I'm not an expert, but I certainly think that's an era, I think, that even the British people look back on and say, yeah, no, that shouldn't have. Because this wasn't the Scots trying to... This was Scots trying to take back their country. This wasn't the Scots deciding they wanted to split off from the Brits or the English. This was the English king believing that he ruled all of that and all of Scotland, and them fighting for Prince William, saying no, he's the rightful king of England. So because the king at the time was King George.
I think it was King George.
It was actually German. He came from Germany. So I mean that was the thing, is they didn't feel like they were being ruled by him, and so it was more of a not, you said revolution. It wasn't a revolution. It was a insurrection, is what it was. And so I think even, and I could be wrong, but I think even in UK they realize now that was not the right way to go about things. So I think even in the 60s there was no romanticizing the British Army for going up and trying to take over, because it was very brutish, and the Jacobites were really trying to defend themselves, or defend their lands rather, is what they were trying to do. So I don't see that there would have been any conflict with being truthful in that situation. So I don't know, I could be wrong.
I don't know either. I thought it was interesting that it wasn't.
Yeah.
But you're right, we've tended to white in Hollywood really sanitize.
Not like over here.
Yeah.
They didn't quite get the gunfight at the OK Corral right, so let's hope that they got that right.
Well,
I appreciated that the novelization gave us an explanation of what was, like, the history of what was happening as we started. Where, of course, the story doesn't. It just drops you in.
Drops you right in,
but
yeah.
It's nice to have that kind of back history in case you don't know what's going on.
Right.
Which, of course, I didn't.
Or a moment where one of your characters, if the doctor or Polly had pulled Ben aside and said, "Didn't you study history?" Blah 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 blah. I feel like we needed that moment in the TV show, because we didn't get that in Reign of Terror either, did we?
No, we didn't.
And I feel
in fact, Brenda had to help us.
with
Reign of Terror a little bit.
Yeah, I think now I would appreciate Reign of Terror better, because I know what was more happening then, especially since watching it in other media I've taken in since then.
Although Reign of Terror focuses very small microcosm until the end. The end becomes the bigger picture. Yeah. But things like the Crusades, the big picture is there the whole time, and and our the TARDIS crew is really kind of the small part of the big picture. Highlanders, I think, kind of does a balance of both. That it still focuses on a microcosm of something that's happened in the trappings of the bigger picture that they're also giving us as well. So I think that strikes a better balance than either of those two previous stories. So.
Yeah, it really does. But it's in tradition of historical. It's no end of world thing, which is kind of a nice change of pace for any Doctor Who story.
Oh yeah, because we know how it's going to turn out, or
yeah.
We should know how it's going to turn out. So cool. Anything else?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Me too. Apparently, because now I've listened to it twice and read it and watched it. So, all right. Well, what do we got coming up on the schedule, Sean?
I don't remember.
I was giving you your audio cue this week.
Yeah, I didn't have it pulled up this week,
so
I was unprepared. It's a book, isn't it? Aren't we doing?
No,
we're doing the last of the quote unquote virus.
Oh, that's right.
arc,
The virus
which
arc.
I still don't think is going to. I like what you said last week about we'll call it the virus theme.
The virus theme, yes.
We're doing that.
There's no arc whatsoever.
It's Mission to the Virons, and
that's the second one.
That's the second one. I don't remember what the first one's called now.
You guys made me forget about these.
It's a big finish.
I was going to give you these when I was telling you about my vacation.
I wondered, but I didn't want to be greedy and go, "Where's
my gift?" Well, we kind of have a tradition.
The Mind's Eye and Mission of the Virus.
Thanks,
we sort of have that's the ones. We sort of have a tradition of shot glasses, so I brought you guys shot glasses. There's a sticker still on that one. Probably a sticker still on his too.
Ditto.
Yeah.
That just makes it authentic.
Thank you.
So we got that at Shell City.
Where's the naked lady?
You got to turn it upside down.
Yeah, turn it upside down.
Hey, the flamingo's doing something really weird.
Feathers go away.
Thank you.
That's actually from Navarre Beach. So, yeah, this little place called Shell City, which was hilarious because
made of shells.
We stayed in a place called Chelsea near Birmingham, is where our friends live. And every time I said Chelsea, the kids thought I was saying Shell City, which is a joke with them because they would launch into the song in the SpongeBob movie where they're going to Shell City to find the crown. I don't know how it goes. You'd think I would because they sang it 3,000 times every time I said Shell City. They would launch into the song. But because I'm not Chelsea. When I'm saying Chelsea, they think I'm saying Shell City and they launch into the song. So it's serendipitous that we get to Navarre Beach and there's actually a place called Shell City, which I don't know if you've seen the SpongeBob movie, but this is pretty much Shell City from the SpongeBob movie. In fact, I expected to go in there and find, the little sponges all dried up and everything and a sprinkler system.
Did you take pictures with the kids and go?
Well, yeah, they took a picture of the sign. It was hilarious. So we end up in Shell City, which they've been serendipitously singing about all the way down on this trip. Anyway. What else is on the schedule, Sean?
So, what was the first one again?
It's Big Finish 102, The Mind's Eye, and Mission of the Virons.
And that's next week. And then the following week is...
A Very Private Haunting by Sharon Bidwell.
For the Lethbridge-Stewart verse. Brigverse.
Back to the Brigverse.
And then after that, just one more. 96 Valhalla, Big Finish. And then Titan Comics miniseries Ghost Stories 1 through 4.
Titan Comics. Say that again?
Miniseries Ghost Stories 1 through 4.
What is that?
Your absolute favorite.
Is that more Torchwood?
No. That's the ghost from
It's Christmas
The Return
in July.
of Dr. Mysterio.
Oh, right. The yes, okay. I forgot about that there was a comic series for that. Yeah. Well, they might be all right. Don't get me wrong.
This is where the ghost belongs.
Exactly. I'm not going to judge that the character's not a bad character. It's a good concept. It's a fun element.
Save it for 3 weeks.
It's completely.
Don't sell yourself on it before.
Well, you're right. I'll come back and go, what the heck was that? No, yeah, you're right. No, I don't. But I guess I should say I don't have any. I'm not going into it with negative.
Dreading it.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Oh, you've already read it?
No. I finished tonight's homework tonight. You think I've read anything ahead?
Let alone 3 weeks ahead?
Let alone 3 weeks ahead. Now, if I schedule some 8th Doctor stuff, I can go, yeah, I've done that one.
All right, well, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You can find a link to that page on our website, travelingthevortex.com. Keith, if they want to send us feedback?
While you're on our website, go to the Send This Feedback tab, and you can just fill out the form there, or you can send it directly to feedback@travelingthevortex.com.
If you don't like forms.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else we need to do this week before we close out?
I don't believe so.
All right. If that's going to do it for this week, until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.